Well, hi guys.
Good evening, glow getters. Oh, I just dropped my stone. Anyways, it's okay. It was right there. I just picked it. I am your host, Desiree, here with my co-host, Camila. We're back for part 2 of What's Love Got to Do with It. We're just kind of hopping right back in where we left off last time, guys. It's a lot. I feel like romance is such a layered topic. So
Yes, absolutely.
The 3rd episode. Yeah.
And last time we left off, you were about to have a date.
Yeah.
With Tyler, and well, it was his job to like plan it and stuff, right?
Yes.
How did he do?
He did such a good job. I was so proud. So we, like you guys know, we just moved into our new place, and obviously we haven't had rent in like a year or more. So Tyler's feeling a little anxious about like what money is going to look like, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So how about date night? We don't spend a ton of money. We don't go out. But that means we just have to be more intentional about it. Like, date night can't just be like you turn on a TV show and then I'm supposed to know that this is date night. No.
This is a date, right. By the way. Yesterday we had a date. Right. I don't know if you know, but so we did.
He had gotten some wine and he had ordered Korean food and he got me bulgogi. He did such a good job. He was like, I know you like that. And then we watched The Cell with Jennifer Lopez, which I think I saw as a child, but I didn't actually watch it as a child. So, like, to watch it now, I was so intrigued. I was like, what?
I think I watched it before I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Which might explain a lot of
stuff.
Scenes
were familiar, but I just, like I said, I don't, or like I told you in our voice notes, I don't remember actually paying attention to the movie when I was younger. My parents always were watching that kind of stuff, so I know it was
same
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, at some point we watched a lot of the same movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
During that same
like the
age
thrillers,
range.
chillers, and like, we're just like these children just watching
psychological thrillers. I'm like, I love those now. They're my favorite.
Are people really this crazy outside?
Absolutely, yes. I think I watched Silence of the Lambs at like 8 or I don't know. When did it come out? Let me not lie. I guess I have to see when it came out. But we watched it when it came out and I was a child. So it's it's my favorite. Yeah. It's my favorite little like collection. I don't know.
Yeah. The Exorcist, The Omen. I watched all of those when I was just a wee babe.
Just a child. Just a tot. God, man. It explains so many things.
Oh, man.
And why we're just like, yeah.
Yeah. It really
stuff happens, man.
Of course I was gonna end up here.
Ordained.
Oh, but yeah, he did such a good job. I was really impressed. And it was very cute. He had lit some candles and some incense. I was so proud of him. Mind you guys, like, he would never light incense just there by himself. But because I was going to be there for the date, he was like, Desiree likes incense. Let me light some incense. I thought that was so thoughtful.
He thought about it. He really did. That's my brother.
He did a good job.
I'm so proud of him. Mm-hmm. We've come such a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the most memorable romantic gesture you've ever received from Tyler Reed? Ooh.
Let's see. The most memorable. I'll go with like the most recent memorable, which is a couple months ago. I want to say maybe even it was in June. Mm-hmm. A couple of months ago, he took me stargazing as a date. Yeah.
Stop. It makes my eyes water. That's how much I like that.
You went?
Immediately.
Yeah. he took me.
I should keep tissues.
Yes. He took me to just like a field, like a baseball field almost, right? So where it was completely clear and we were away from all the city buildings and lights. And which doesn't take much here in Central Texas, you guys. Like you literally have to drive 5 minutes down the street and you're out of.
Yeah.
So
ta-da! A field.
Yeah.
With no trees.
Exactly.
Ta-da!
On this field, and he opened up we have a moonroof. So he opened up the moonroof and he popped the trunk and sat the seats back, and like he had a fleece blankets and everything in like the back seat. God. It was adorable. He also brought wine that day. I know. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite memories.
I can't. I love that. Yeah. I love that memory. Wow, I love that memory for you. Damn.
It's like a core memory now. You know, like from the movie Inside Out. Have a little glowing ball of me and Tyler sitting in the trunk.
I have so many like core memories. I realize I'm always telling myself that I have like terrible memory. Like I've always told myself like, you have awful memory, because I don't really remember like everything I did like the next day. Like, or the day before, you know, I don't always remember everything that was said after like a conversation. Like, it really depends on what the content was. If it was like not the most like, I don't know, maybe engaging, it's just like, I know it wasn't a bad conversation, and that's about all I got. So, man, when I get those core memories, I'm like, I have a lot of those. So maybe my memory isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Because it's from all over the place. So, anyway, how exciting. Round of applause, because we did that last time. Yeah. So I'm going to keep doing this. No. I like this. I'm going to keep doing this whenever I can. Man. Okay, so you guys have been together for 9 years now. How do you guys, at this stage, keep, which I feel like there would be some people that are like, wow, really, at 9 years you're going to ask this question? But I feel like this is something that just happens periodically and cyclically within a partner relationship. So how have you guys up to this point, especially now that we've established that you're like completely different people from when you first met, how do you guys keep the spice alive?
Ooh, the spice.
Cheers to spice. Spiced rum. Click.
Yeah, we have rum and Coke tonight, you guys.
Cuba Libres.
Man.
This was a Joe question.
I think it is. It's such a loaded question. I think if you are both people who are committed to your personal growth, and you both had the physical chemistry pretty early on with each other, that the longer you're together, the more important the emotional and mental turn on is, right? So I would say, like, our sex life itself has not gotten necessarily any spicier, but we keep it pretty spicy. So so that in and of itself maybe hasn't changed much. But I think it definitely has shifted in like the last year or two. After, for those of you who don't know, I went through like a Tantra container. So it's called Trauma to Tantra with Stephanie Ray. She's amazing. Follow her on Instagram. And I learned a lot about myself after finding out a piece of traumatizing information. And kind of finding some of the memory, but not all of it. And so there was a period of time, actually recently, about a year or two ago, that Tyler and I were going through where like it was uncomfortable for me to have sex only because I just didn't know what I wanted. So I was like, I don't know what I like. Like, I just felt so out of touch with that part of myself. So going through this container really had me get like down and dirty and like honest about like what I want and trying to explore what I like. And with that has come a lot of discussion, right? Like we have to talk about it because these are new things now. And I have to, one, be brave enough to share with him, which is where like cultivating that vulnerability and that trust in each other comes in, right? If I didn't trust him, there's no way I'd be able to tell him like, babe, I want to try this sensation box. Like I'm super into sensation play. I think that that's cool. But like, I wouldn't be able to share that with him if I hadn't cultivated the trust, one within myself, but then also with him. Right. So that's where communicating, for instance, when it comes to like life things is so important, because once we can communicate when it comes to basic life things, or who's going to take the trash out, or whose job it is to switch the laundry, then we can start really communicating about the good stuff, like what I want to try.
Yes. Yes.
But if I don't trust you to talk about the laundry, I can't trust you to talk about tying me up. Like what?
Sorry, these are the important conversations, and these are stepping stones to the big conversations. Right. You see?
Right.
Come on.
So
he's done great, though, as we've said.
So I would say, in general, if you're both committed to some kind of personal growth, it's really just about staying on the same page emotionally and mentally. Some of the most like sexually stimulating things that we've experienced, especially in like the last year or so, have been conversation. It's been the conversation before this.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. I'll say that's what I've noticed in you guys. Just the increase in intimacy level, which is also, I don't know if the vibration would be intimacy, but there's a certain vibration that is felt within the interaction of two people when there is a certain amount of intimacy, which I'm sure is what people feel with us. But it's nice to really see it, to start seeing it now, like,
yeah.
And that's been really cool to see as your friend, and obviously as more than your friend.
Yeah, it's been cool to experience too. Like, what a fucking trip.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
absolutely
have these like really, so something, we both really love physical touch, and we'll take a moment like when we're passing each other in the house to like stop and embrace each other, and just like I'll rub his back as I'm hugging him, and he'll like kiss my neck, and we'll just do this for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know. We don't time it. It's like we're passing each other, and it's like, hey, I want to.
Right.
But even just that, it's like,
let me touch you, girl.
It's so intimate. Like, if you want your woman to be ready for sex all the time, just do that. Just do that throughout the day, and then like
throughout the day, she'll be like, at the end of the day, like,
yes, like I can't.
I can't wait to get home.
We have to do something about this.
Please help me out, or I won't sleep well. Man. So you mentioned that in order to keep some of that, just, I think, interest. I feel like spice is like interest. How to keep that for my brain, interest is nice. So you said that being on your own individual paths and having like a commitment to self was important. So how do you guys, and like, you know, you can speak on Tyler as just as far or as little, or in general terms, you know,
right.
Since he's not here to speak for himself, obviously we're not here to put words in his mouth. But how do you stay aligned as individuals in your couplehood?
It's a lot of like discovery conversation, I would say. Um, we are both in a very high transit time right now. Like for both of us personally, a lot of stuff is shifting in our worlds. Our personal energy and our personal desires are shifting a little bit. So we have a lot of like check-in conversations. And
Ooh.
it's not so much checking in like you know, sometimes we see these reels where like they're like the 3 questions I ask my husband every week, or you know, like they do these little check-in conversations. It's not so much that.
I have not seen those.
Oh my gosh, I love them. I think they're great.
But I have a different algorithm. So
that's true. Yeah. I want to make
just send me one and I'll start getting them.
Yeah. But it's not necessarily like talking about our conflict or where we might have experienced some friction in that week, so much as it's talking about our dreams. And again, I think this comes back to like, we can't talk about these deeply intimate things with people if we don't have the trust to talk to them about the dishes being taken care of. If I can't trust your ability to check the mail, if I can't trust your ability to, again, swap the laundry if I need you to, right? Then I'm not going to trust your ability to hold space for me when I'm talking about my dreams and desires for my life. Like that's deeply intimate stuff. So it's really come down to us like being able to cultivate again the intimacy to have that conversation. And now we are actually at a point where we can really talk about our dreams and desires. So I would say like at least twice a week we're having conversations about like something that Camila and I have been talking about a lot lately, that we have recently opened the conversation about again is children. And not so much children, but like, is it important for me to have your baby?
Yes.
Do you want me to be pregnant and have your baby, or can we adopt?
Yes.
Can we foster, right? Like, because there's so many ways you can become a mom. Like, and for me, it's never necessarily been important to give birth.
Yeah.
I'll love a child no matter what. But I'm also in a place with my own personal health that I want to start making some changes. And I've considered like...
So we need to have some conversations.
Exactly. I've considered like early surgery and stuff just for my own hormone health. I've always had an unpleasant cycle. So like it's a whole history. But
yeah,
if I am not on any kind of birth control, I will likely get pregnant. If I get pregnant, is this something that you want, right? So this is a conversation we're having like probably twice a week right now. We also talk a lot about
just like new realizations that you each get like throughout the few days.
Yeah. We talk a lot about like where we see ourselves in 5 to 10 years, but not in that way of like when you go on your first date with somebody, right? It's not like that.
Oh my God.
It's like, where do you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you envision your life? How do you feel moving through life? What does our home life look like together? What does our travel life look like together? More
free.
Yeah, like more deeply intimate. Intimate is like the best word I can think of for it, but more deeply intimate questions, because that's how you can find out like what someone wants and what's important to them and where their values are. And there was a point in time where when Tyler and I were going to therapy, where like our values were we had come so far apart.
Yes.
If your personal values don't align, that's where it can get really tricky, right? That's why we work so well, is because right now our personal values are deeply aligned. Like if you put our graphs on top of each other, they fit beautifully. But it took a little bit of realization on both sides, and also coming to a peaceful place with the possibility that we could not be together. It's not something
that
I
was a
think
rough
about every
time.
single day, right? I'm not saying I cause myself
Mm-hmm.
anxiety about it, or I'm like, oh my God, any second now he could say something that could like completely change my mind. Like, but we both understand now that people grow, and what is best for him is what I want for him, even if that means not being with me. And I hate saying that shit out loud, but like it's true.
That's a hard one. I think that's a
It
hard
is.
one at
It
all.
is. And same.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that back in like January. He was like, in January we were discussing again, like what would it look like if we broke up. And we were also living with my parents, right? So like this is kind of a weird discussion to have while we're living with my parents, because like, where are you gonna go? In the bedroom next door?
Yeah. But it was needed. There was so much pressure in that
we
house
definitely
at the
had to
time.
talk about it. And he was really able to, it took him a little longer, obviously. I think for men it just always does, because they want to be the saviors, right? And so he was really just trying so hard to like really save it. But there was no need to save anybody. We were both fine. We were both safe. It was just how to come out of the place of getting our security and stability and safety and start chasing our dreams together. Because again, that's like a new level of intimacy. That's a new level of discussion that has to happen.
I feel like in this society we're used to either it's like everybody's chasing one person's dream or the other.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and then
one person feels like they need to, right.
Yeah.
Or maybe they want to. Maybe they, they might not see it as a sacrifice. But it's like, that seems to be the dynamic. It's like, this household is focused around what this person does. And then, I get to do whatever I do.
Yeah.
But that's a very interesting dynamic. So to be able to also like let go of that like illusion is also really nice.
Yeah. No,
I think.
absolutely.
Also, tilt your camera up a little bit. Your head's kind of cut off a little bit better.
A little bit more.
Yeah. Cool. That's better. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
But yeah, the realization that like, if I needed to, I could let him go so that he can be as happy as possible, because that's actually what's the most important to me.
Yeah. I think that was a hard one for him as well. I mean, for anybody. That's a hard lesson to learn. And I think, that's the lesson of detachment. Like, there's so many there are so many like definitions and like negative connotations to the word detachment. But to go into life with like a general energy of detachment is beautiful. Like that's exactly the energy that you need to bring things in, because you cannot to bring in the change that you say you want. Because if you're stuck on the idea of how it needs to go, then you leave no room for fluctuation. You leave no room for like chaos. And so if things don't go perfectly for this one vision that you have, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It just gets so crazy.
Yeah. And then that's how things can feel so chaotic for us.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my goodness. So, okay, so you do check-in convos, like together. So you as an individual, what do you do in your own life to stay aligned then? So like as a couple, that's what you guys do. But as individuals, like what do you do to keep yourself aligned?
Right. Definitely like maintaining my physical health, right? My gym routine and staying on top of my nutrition, because I know that when I can't pay attention to anything other than my body, then like nothing else is going to happen, right? So my body, I need my body to be operating at optimal health. So that I have the mental space to think about my emotions and everything. Also, I think this is where like that feminine surrender that we really think of comes in, right? Because it's like, it obviously, I think too, has a lot to do with your lifestyle. And I'm an entrepreneur, I work from home, I have like the ultimate flexibility. Tyler works for the state. He's a corrections officer. He works at the prison. He has like no flexibility. And I think I've shared with you guys before, like he works these really long days, 12 to 16-hour days. Yeah.
Equal opposite spectrums, you guys. If you pay attention, it presents itself in these very physical ways. Yes. Pay attention.
Yes. But what I love to do is basically build my schedule around his and surrender to the fact that like of the two of us, I am the one with the flexibility. So yes, I can ask for a specific kind of date night, but also like what kind of energy am I giving to create the space for him to have to create the date night, right? Like if he had to come home and deal with a bunch of house things. And again, I am not applying like misogynistic or like these super old school values to anybody's relationship. I'm just saying that for us, it makes more sense for me to be the one to do a little bit more of the house chores, for me to take care of the dishes because I'm here anyways. And like, I get to take breaks whenever I want, right? Energetically, physically, his job requires way more of him than mine does. So energetically and physically, I can maintain things around the house so that when I come to him and say, babe, I want to do A, B, and C, he has the mental space to think about it instead of thinking about, oh shit, Desiree asked me to do D, E, and F, and I never even got to it. And then now I got to plan A, B, and C.
Right. And I think there's also, on top of that, there's also like being flexible about working around his schedule. So like you're not, you're not making things sort of difficult just for your partner by, I don't know, like, well, I have this training scheduled on this day. Like, you're like, well, this is the day that like I know that he can possibly do the thing, or we can possibly do the thing. So I'm going to prioritize this day, and I'm going to, like, even if it's a day where maybe I had to move around a big client or something, it's like if I would get upset with him for not putting that day, for not making that day a priority, then I have to do the same.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to do the same, even if that means like, big ticket clients for your specific example.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe.
Which was the next part I was going to say, which is like putting myself in his shoes and vice versa. Right. We've come a long way. I feel like both of us putting ourselves in each other's shoes, and really just understanding that if we're asking this person to fulfill certain desires of ours, then that means that like we get to contribute to how that person creates space to do that, right? It's not just his job to fulfill like my desire of these beautiful date nights. Like it's also my job to make sure that he has the mental space and energy to plan that. And if I'm constantly asking him to take care of other things that I could also take care of when I'm here all day, it's like, at what point?
That's that resentment game.
Yes.
It's
at what point am I asking?
And that's that game of like, I do more things here than you do here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Aren't you tired?
No.
Man. So, okay. So you mentioned that at one point you guys were like, when you first got to therapy, there was a pretty clear divide. So for people who maybe see themselves in this clear divide, how, in your opinion, like how do you know when to call it quits with somebody? How do you know it's time?
When you run out of room to compromise with each other.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
Because that's one thing Tyler and I never ran out of, was the room to compromise with each other. And even when I was asking for things that may be difficult for him to wrap his brain around at the time, instead of saying like, no, I'm not willing to do that, it was like, okay, yeah, I can do that, but can you help me with then these things? Right? So again, it's like this exchange of like, where can we divide the energy? I don't even want to say equally, because it's not always about it being like fair and equal, so much as it
right,
where both parties feel like, yeah, I can manage doing this thing because these other hierarchy of needs are being met by my partner. So I have the
right, and
availability to compromise with them on these things.
right.
I think, like, let's use the example of children, for instance, just because I think it's such a great, clear example. Let's say your partner is like gung-ho. Like, they're like, I'm ready to have kids now. This is what I've always wanted. This is the age that I've always imagined myself having children at. And they are not budging on that. And then you don't want to have kids yet. You want to travel. You want to explore. You want to see things and do things still. Sometimes there can be an age difference, but not always. Like I've heard, you know, 2 28-year-olds, one's ready to have a kid, the other one's like, no way.
Which I feel like I do want to say, like, I feel like it is possible to travel and like do these things with your baby. I feel like it is possible, but I think it takes, you know, an incredible amount of patience on both parties, an incredible amount, like, you guys as individuals need to be like so united because, you know, that is a trek. And then of course there's like the financial bit of it, but it is, you know, I think it can be done, but for sure,
but again,
for sure, typically in this economy, it's pretty, you're kind of having to choose.
Right. And it has to be a desire for both partners, right? Like both partners
yes,
want to
absolutely
have that child. And so
yes,
if you were at a place where you're like, I don't really feel like I can compromise on that right now. And again, as women, it's our body, right? So like we kind of have to really be honest with ourselves about this, because the resentment that you're putting your body through something that you were not ready for, we don't
absolutely not. It is a resentment that you will inevitably pass on to your child, inevitably throw that on to your spouse. Like, do not do things before you're ready. Don't do it. You're gonna have difficult parental lessons if you do.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, I mean, if you want to do it, but it's gonna be difficult lessons.
And I think if you, you know, have multiple conversations and you both just still can't, like, you both can't budge, then it might be time to call that relationship quits, because both of your wants are important and both of you should be satisfied, but you
absolutely
are also both clearly not the person who's going to satisfy each other's needs and wants, at least right now in this point in time.
Right. Not in the presented time frame. It's like, I'm ready now. It's like, oh, well, I'm ready. I don't know when, but I don't even know you like that. So, like, I don't even know if I like you in that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't tell you when I would be ready to have your kid. That would be me. Like, that's why it's like, it's impossible. Like, you know what? I need somebody who's like neurodivergent as fuck. They'll get me, or else it's just gonna be like, what? Why can't you commit to do it now, tomorrow? We're dying as we speak right now. I'm like, no, we have time. You don't even know if you like me.
Right.
Oh my God. So you know when to call it quits when you've each just kind of hit a wall and you've gone in circles for the same like topics, you think?
Yeah. Again, I think
there's like no patience for compromise.
Like when you really feel in yourself that like, no, I'm not budging on this, and like the other person is like, no, I'm not budging on this, then I think that's when it becomes like, okay, well, if this is a life thing, like again, children, marriage, travel, even like lifestyle, right? If there's a certain lifestyle you want to live and your partner is like, no, man, I'm not about it. And you're both not willing to compromise at all. I think that's where
it could be time. Yeah. And it will still be difficult. Absolutely. And you can do it with love, and like everything doesn't need to be a fight. Like every breakup doesn't need to be this like
toxic and like a big blowout. Yeah.
Fucking movie scene. Like, oh, I can't. Like I love drama. I love drama, but in the entertainment type of way. But goddamn, in my personal life, like keep it away. I can't. I loathe it. And I will just stare at it blankly, like just like a psycho. Man.
But yeah, compromise is super important. And again, like I said earlier, putting ourselves in each other's shoes, right? Like really creating perspective.
Empathy.
Yeah. Just that. Yeah. Finding some empathy with each other. And this part I feel like has been really the biggest shift for us since like the beginning of our relationship. If I were to look at
the empathy
things, if I were to look at all of the things that we have grown the most on, yes, there's communication, yes, there's trust, yes, there's intimacy, but none of that would have ever been cultivated if we didn't really empathize with each other and like really try to understand where the other person was coming from.
Yes, I feel like people downplay empathy so much. Like, it's like if you really took a moment and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, let's just say before you said whatever you think you want to say right now, if that person said it to you, like how the hell would you feel? Period. It's very easy. And I think that's why we just brush it away. And we don't have much time or attention to do any of these things. But my gosh, like it would save so many arguments, so much time. Like you would be able to laugh at yourself so much more because you would be constantly like imagining these scenarios when your friend says this thing that you're about to say to you and you're like, oh, how could you say that to me? And you're like, whoa, okay, but that's what I want to say
like,
to this person.
Over yourself and like the little arguments and
like
partner have, you just like laugh. You just laugh at it because you're like, this is so silly. Like,
yes, like it saves so much time and like I hate like wasting emotional energy, especially I hate wasting it on like lower vibrations. And I have such little patience for people that I feel are wasting their energy. I'm like, this is a waste of your time. Yeah, but I really just value I value my energy now way more than I used to. And hopefully I'll continue to value it more.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how, but oh my goodness, but I take it so personally sometimes when I see people.
If you're in a relationship or not, you're always learning how to not waste emotional energy.
Yes. Like keep your peace, yo. Like run it through your mind. Like use it. Use the tool. It's there to help you. Like your imagination is there for a reason.
Exactly.
It's there to help you run through scenarios. Like at the very least, like just practice saying what you're about to say. Like, man, I wish more people did this. Obviously, I understand that like there's a limit to doing this, right? Because this is the very behavior that leads to overthinking, and that's okay. But like you don't have to overthink it. You just like think a little bit. Like just think a little bit. Think about your response. Like overthinking takes a lack of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing this intentionally, then you can resist you can see the overthinking cloud, and you can like, bitch,
yeah,
I'm focusing.
and
a little easier.
yeah. And
it still takes practice.
Absolutely. But I think too, what's kind of been a blessing for us, like I mentioned in the first episode, is that for all of our friendship, Camila has pretty much been single, and I have been in a relationship with Tyler. So what's cool, I think, about that is that we don't necessarily have to overthink the what ifs of the opposite situation, because we're watching that opposite situation all of the time.
Yes. Yes. And where did I come from? Like when you met me, I was coming out of.
Right, exactly. You were coming out of a divorce. So,
exactly.
Which marriage in and of itself, like relationships for sure, long-term relationships for sure, but marriage in and of itself is like a whole box of lessons. It's Pandora's
marriage.
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 Oh, you know, I love that movie.
It's amazing. It's a great one. It reminds me of my grandma.
It's one of my favorite. It's again like a core memory movie. Like,
yup, same for sure. With my little bubble TV that I had in my room that I got one Christmas. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
I used to sneak out.
Speaking of your divorce and being single and all of that, I am curious how your perspective on all of these romantic things we've been talking about. So empathy, trust, communication, intimacy. How has your perspective on these things shifted since you've been single, and actively on your personal development journey?
Well, what a loaded question. Like a loaded potato. Well, I think that first of all, maybe I've become a little bit more like cynical, maybe. It depends what like language I'm choosing, like how feisty I'm feeling that day, like what language I choose, like to like talk about it. I've definitely, or like cynical, or perhaps down to earth. Perhaps. Like I'm definitely not so much up in the clouds about like romance, of course. Being married in the best way was just kind of like being a boulder, and then somebody shoved me off a cliff, and then I just like fell somewhere else. So it was very heavy and fast and just like boom, and then I'm like, oh wow, she was right the whole time. I have mentioned that like in every podcast, because I hope that one day she'll listen to like at least one of them, and she'll be like, you know what? She acknowledged that I was right. And I'll be like, yes, I did. You were right. But it was hard. And so, you know, it definitely like blew past all the like rainbows and stuff. I suddenly understood like hormonal lust, and I was like, okay, great. This is explanatory. This is not love. This is just this. This doesn't mean love. Certain conversations don't mean love. So it did immediately shift. Like I became a little bit, for sure, kind of sour about it. And at this point, I'm not sour anymore. Like I'm in a stage like I'm open for this
really
now.
Balanced out, yeah.
Thanks. But it's definitely most of all just like really showed me how much work it really is on all levels. And you're not just and it showed me that, you know, you are not just in a relationship with yourself. Or you're not, well, for me, it was flip-flop. You're not just in a relationship with somebody else, Camila. You're also in a relationship with yourself.
Right.
And at some point, I had lost well, I didn't really know, I guess, who I really was. Like, I knew who I was.
I mean, you get
under like
when you got married, first of all, like nobody knows who they are when they're 17 or 18.
Yes, exactly. We met at 17. We are like 2 months apart, so we turned 18 around the same time. He left for the military, came back during R&R. Like, he was deployed to real war, came back during R&R, which is 2 weeks. I hadn't seen him in 9 months. 2 weeks, and proposed to me on December 24th, on Christmas, in front of all his family. So it was beautiful, but also there's a lot of pressure. I'm just saying. So anybody that's like trying to do that to like a teenager, like, just, even if you're a teenager too, just like maybe think about it, like, do some empathy and like see, like, maybe that would be a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? Especially when you're like a Hispanic family.
Yeah, right. Right.
It wasn't just like his mom.
No, it was everybody.
Sibling. No.
All the tias.
It was everybody. So
his abuelita was there.
But it was being recorded. It was being recorded by a lot of people.
God.
Even now, my heart is like, oh my God. But it was still, it was still beautiful. It was very like, it was Hallmark and like Lifetime. It was beautiful. It was very cute, especially for like how young we were. Like, we still ran on the like love is enough theory. As long as there's love, it's fine. And it's like, no, unfortunately, no. So that was definitely a lesson that that I had to learn. So I mean, and I think I learned it being that I did get married quickly and I tried to do this quickly. I think that I learned these lessons kind of early in life, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, how has it changed my perspective? Definitely in just that it's hard. And because I really understand this, I'm just really not willing to do it with just anybody anymore. And I'm willing to meet like whoever I need to meet. At this point, like I don't even Tinder date. Like it depends how you want to look at it. Like it could be on the perspective that like I'm just tired. Number one, of I hate the swiping, like it numbs my brain out and like I can do it forever. And I'm just like, wow, like I don't like anybody. So I got that going for me. So what's the point of this? And then or you could see it from the perspective of like from a human design perspective, I am to be invited to things and just universally many of the things that I have achieved in my life or started in my life, anything, jobs, whatever, have just sort of come to me. I have been invited to these opportunities. They just come and I can choose to take them or not. And so me like looking like a psycho, like just scrolling like a psycho, because also like I'm a human being and I'm just as addicted to my phone as everybody else on this planet. And like at this point, sometimes I don't even see them and I'm just like swiping one way. So I'm like, why am I doing this? That doesn't really show much confidence in the grand scheme and the workings of the universe. So I'm like, fuck it. Like if I'm just gonna let things come to me, then I need to stop trying to find them.
Yeah.
Let the thing come. Stop trying to look for the thing. Let whatever thing come.
Right.
And the easiest way to explain.
And also, like, side note, biologically, attraction is so much more than like a fucking paragraph that you can put on a dating app. I'm sorry, but like your voice, how you smell, how you touch me, like that all plays a part in if I'm attracted to you. And I can create this dream person out of your Tinder profile, and then I meet you and I'm like completely,
you don't even match your picture, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, wait a minute.
I hate it. It makes me so upset. I'm like, you guys, like,
just be honest.
Come on.
Be honest.
Just be cool. Yes. And so I'm like, okay, red flag number 1. So I just stopped. I'm like, if you have a filter on most of your pictures, not like some, but if most to all of your pictures are filtered, I'm gonna be like, nope. Like I just can't.
Right.
Just from that alone, I'm like, you're not even willing to show me like what pimples you have on your face. Like I'm gonna be like, whoa, or something. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, basically it's shown me that relationships are very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being, you know, making sure that you are doing the things that keep your sanity, that you've hopefully you've taken a break from like your last relationship or whatever the fuck. There's been a gap where you've been able to take some time for yourself, and hopefully you've realized some things that make you feel good. And hopefully you've started putting those things into practice. And the idea is that you can find a partner who's also doing these things, so that when you start trying to keep your self-care routine up, you know, their own like insecurities of what could this mean? Does it mean that, you know, you don't want to hang out with me because you don't talk to me 24/7? Or, you know, is the gym being your time? Does that mean that you don't like being with me, or that you don't enjoy the time you have with me? Like, you know, it's very important if you are on like a growth path, that you find somebody that is also there. It just becomes, it's just easier to kind of interact in this physical world, because we have these sort of set things that we do for ourselves, and therefore the other person will already understand this dynamic, and they know that if I don't let you do these things, there's no way that I can get that amazing energy from you that I felt the first time we met.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
How can I do that?
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing it. So
right into my next question, which is, how do you prioritize self-care? And what is its importance? I think especially when you're single or dating, right?
Well, I'm still in my own, you know, personal life, obviously. I'm still trying my best to make sure that I'm always doing my self-care things, some of my self-care things. Discipline and patience is one of my, like, it was like it's imprinted somewhere in my body. I'm sure some mystic out there can see it for sure somewhere, but it's imprinted somewhere here that I came here to learn discipline and patience. And so I'm working on it. So like, oh man, for me, I know it will be important for me to find somebody that can, with their own routines, just my natural kind of this like mimic getting on the same sort of wave as somebody. Like hopefully I just need someone to help me continue to do things for me, instead of like enabling me to get into that energy of just like overall like martyrism, right? Where I feel like that's just the typical energy where we just like, oh my God, I just like you so much. Like I just want to spend like every single day of life with you forever, and I want to talk to you all day. Yeah. And it's cool, we've just met, but I'm gonna, you know, we're gonna not do any of the things that we do. I'm not gonna meditate for like 2 or 3 weeks, right? Which seems like such a little thing, but like at this point I realize, like looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, like Camila, like you've been meditating like almost every day, especially now. It's definitely almost every day
now. It's
since
like
2020.
Really part of us, right?
Yes, like if I don't, like if I go a couple days, like my anxiety really does. I really do notice these like physical changes, and I get like a lot like easier. I'm just like, whoa. And I'm, you know, I am more self-aware now. So when I do let myself stray from these things out of like just hormonal feelings, I really hear the part of my brain that's like, you're not, like, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, you know. I feel my body start getting into more pain because all of a sudden I'm not going to the gym because I'm going to hang out with this person instead of like doing that, where maybe it's not something that we can do together, but like, you know, hopefully I would find somebody. There was sometimes we could go together. It doesn't need to be an all the time thing. But it's just, it's incredibly important because there's just no way that I could always be, hopefully I will present myself to them and hopefully they will fall in love with myself, the authentic self. I cannot be that me if I don't do certain things.
Yeah.
And in the past, and for me, I've also realized that I do need time for myself. And for a long, long, long time, I would tell myself that I don't want to be alone ever. Like, woo. My sister asked me a very important question when I was married and was like, what, you know, I was going through a difficult time with him. And she's like, well, what do you do when he's not there? And I'm like, I don't know, just like watch TV and stuff. And she's like, what do you like to do? And I was like, I don't understand the question.
You just told you.
It's like, what do you like to do when you're by yourself? And I was like, sometimes I like walk the dogs. Like, she's like, do you even know what you like? And I'm like, no, I guess not. Like, I used to like color sometimes and stuff. And she was just like, what? And I realized at that moment, you know, like, damn, what do I like to do? Who, you know, that's that, like, who am I without this person?
Yeah.
Who even am I? And who even are we? Like, we also, since both of us were kind of in the same boat with ourselves, like, we weren't really like this authentic pairing even together. Like, we were as authentic as we could be at that time together. But like, even then we were not authentic because like, I couldn't authentically talk to him and he couldn't authentically talk to me. So it is very much of the utmost importance that like we're both on this journey of always growth where like we're always willing to hear each other. And also just like it helps you stay sane up in these streets.
Yes.
Because it is hard.
Then we need rest, bro. Like you can't be growing all the time, man.
Yes, no, but I mean just like dating in general, like it is hard up in these streets. Like you need to be able to calm down because if you are someone who is like, if you're like me, like I got divorced, so we separated like 2015, 16, something like that, and the divorce was finalized in like 2017. So since then, I've really only tried to date like 3-ish times. Like really like, okay, maybe this person. Let's really try this. Twice. Okay. And in between, like there's a lot of little lessons. There's a lot of kind of, you know, you're learning about yourself. If you are involved in sexual relationships, you know, you are learning about your sexuality. Whereas like Desiree's in the reality right now where she has a partner, where she can explore her sexuality with this person. You are in the sort of stage where perhaps you're now exploring the sexuality with like humanity, which is really strange to say. But that's the best. Those are the words that I have right now. Like by experience, as the experience goes, each experience you have, whether they be few or far between, you start learning something about yourself that somehow does prepare you for this person that, you know, you will have the patience for. I think it is very difficult in our society to not start relationships when you are single, in the sexual fashion. I think that's just very difficult. Not impossible, absolutely not. And I think that you do get to a certain point where you just realize that sex is everywhere. It is everywhere. And if you would like to do that, you can do it at any point. And so if it's just about that, then don't even bother about like trying to have a relationship. It's fine. Like if it's just good, it's good somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's fine. So there's sort of that little lesson that I've sort of learned along the way. But because of this, it is very important that you have some kind of self-care routine, because when you are kind of on this path in life, you are going to be constantly faced with yourself. Everybody's a mirror, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to be constantly faced with you and the things you either have yet to let go or yet to work on, blah, blah, blah. And that's tough. Like, that's tough. For example, I am someone who has to work on my own rejection wound, right? So, but I also suffer from like martyrism. So there's also, when you come from a rejection wound, you also have to learn to like set your own boundaries, and setting boundaries can also mean rejecting people or rejecting ideas, et cetera, because you're like, no, from here you can't. So that can be very difficult, especially depending on like how much of a pushover we grew up to be.
Yeah.
So this has in this way, like self-care has been very, very important. And I really didn't like really focus in on it until like, 2020 with like the meditation, but like 2019 kind of with like the studies into like, okay, I want to do this, but it's absolutely important. It's absolutely important. Obviously, while you're being single, I think, because dealing with the world in general, especially if you're anybody that's neurodivergent, it's just on a different level. So dealing with the world in general is exhausting. Going outside is exhausting. Like, trying to explain to people how you feel can be exhausting. So just that alone, like we need ways to be okay with being, we need ways to go into ourselves. And then we need to find ways that we can be okay being our full selves when we are outside of ourselves, which is something that I feel like collectively we're trying to learn how to do for sure. Like, just be weird and just be fine. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's
at this point,
routine leads to your self-love development, right? So then the more self-love we develop, which, side note, like just as your best friend, it's been so cool to watch that part of you shift and grow, especially in like the last year or two. I'm just like, wow. She's so beautiful. But to watch you
God, thank you.
Self-love, because the more we love ourselves, then the more capable we are, like we always say, right, of loving others. And like the more we're able to really be empathetic in those relationships when we are in them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's all like
it takes work.
Effect, for sure.
Yeah, it takes work to be empathetic too. Like, you got to put in you got to practice like your imagination. And so many of us pretend that like we don't have one.
Right.
Are you a human? Like, with a brain?
Right.
You have.
Didn't you play imaginary games and have imaginary friends when you were little? I did.
Maybe you don't play. I mean, I'm just like, how do you come up with decisions? How do you decide between one thing or the other thing, period?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to imagine stuff, but like, surely maybe you imagine one thing or the other thing, or you hear one thing over the other thing. Like, come on.
Yeah. Right.
Stop telling me it's silent in there. Stop it. You need to be locked up. If it's silent in there, you need to be locked up.
You're the great one.
Because that means you're a sociopath and you need to be locked up. You're a psychopath.
Oh, man.
If it's silent.
I think, though, that part, yeah, it does take work. And it takes work when it's just ourselves or in a relationship, right?
Yes. Oh, my God. Every day.
which leads me to my next question, which is, do you believe in the idea of soulmates and or twin flames? Or do you think that relationships require continued conscious effort?
Well, the trick question. I hope nobody failed that test. Nobody failed that one, I hope. While I do think that, the energy of soulmates and the energy of twin flames is a thing that exists, like we are drawn to certain people, and we are drawn to certain people in certain ways, and we learn certain lessons from certain energies. Regardless of that, or whatever the hell you want to name it, because also all of these semantics and all of these names drives me nuts.
Same.
I do not care what you call it or what you want to call it. Absolutely, any relationship, period, is going to require that you want to last.
Mm-hmm.
Any lasting relationship is going to require, and okay, let's go back. Any healthy, lasting relationship is going to require continuous conscious effort. Period.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the type of relationship. If you want it to last, you have to be at least a little present in what's going on in your head, so that you can be present as to what's going on with the relationship with this individual. And just like, trying to brush off, maybe any accountability in a toxic relationship. We'll call it in a dysfunctional relationship. I don't like the word toxic at this point. It's too much. It's everywhere. We like to use things like, it was just my twin flame. Like, stop.
Right.
I'm done.
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
I'm done.
I can't.
I don't really like, as much as I like words as descriptors, and I like that they can explain to us like what the general population understands by this certain word. I try my best to like not get too stuck on words. Like, I know that I have ADHD, but I'm also not, at this point I'm like, okay, well, this is just something that I've had all my life. So now let me see like what has it enabled me to accomplish? Like, what, I have a name for it now, so that's cool for like the left side of my brain. For the rational side of my brain, awesome, we got a name. Excellent. So our brain is still this way. So what have we accomplished? And trying to just focus on breaking it down versus just like, I don't know, focusing so much on like, or I don't want to say blaming, or.
So it's, for me, it feels like a very like strict definition, right? Like when I say soulmate, people have their very like defined thoughts of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like for instance, Camila is one of my soulmates. Camila and I have been lovers. We've been brother and sister. We've been sister and sister. We've been brother and brother. But like, that doesn't mean that I'm going to excuse unhealthy behavior.
Exactly.
Because that's my soulmate, right? So I think that's where the problem is, like, we're like, well, this person is my soulmate. I can feel it. I know it. Do you know how many soulmates you have? Especially if you're human.
So many.
Like, you have so many soulmates at this point. You are running into so many
They're everywhere.
people that you've already known before.
Everywhere.
Exactly. They're everywhere. We have multiple soulmates in this lifetime. I think it's more so like, do you choose to work on that with them? Right?
Yes, it's like, that's what I mean. It's like people really get lost in like these definitions, and it's like, just because okay, so what you and I have is this energy vibration, this intimacy, right? This like innate sort of intimacy before we actually cultivate like our physical intimacy. It's like there's something that draws me to you where like we can just be open with each other without necessarily having to cultivate all of this physical things to support this feeling. And so that is what these people are feeling, and someone has decided to call that, put a word to that, and they say, well, that's just soulmate. Anyone who gives you this feeling is a soulmate. That doesn't mean exactly. It doesn't mean that you don't have to work on anything. It doesn't mean that like, oh, at the time that you meet your soulmate, you are in like, I don't know, perfect energetic conditions to never quarrel again. Like you will never be subject to the chaos of life as so long as you stand next to each other forever and ever. Like it's, oh my Lord, like it's just like we ourselves just kind of blow up this word into some kind of like strange fantasy, and therefore no one can ever fulfill it. Like any soul, we're like, well, I guess that wasn't my soulmate, or maybe it was. But you know, if both of you though were not on the path, on you know, your path of growth, if both of you are not on the path of like being healthy partners together, then that's what they want to call a twin flame.
Exactly.
Then it was a twin flame.
Unhealthy or toxic, then it's your twin flame.
Right. Then it's a twin flame, and then at that point, but that is what Desiree was saying earlier, is like, how do you know when to call it quits? Is like, when you guys, number one, if you're meeting, it's only been like a couple months and like you're already fighting all the time, like, come on, you guys, like, and if you are participating, whatever side you're on, if you are participating in this fight and you have been participating in these fights for the past month, you're also part of the issue. Period.
1,000.
So let's also learn to come clean about where we stand in our relationships, because this is also, I feel like with these terms, we just like to find ways to not take accountability for our actions as human beings. And it's like, and it just stunts our growth in so many ways. Like, you know, our most
twin flame. That one, I feel like when we don't want to take accountability for our own actions and why the relationship failed, we like to call them a twin flame. And I'm like,
Yes. And I'm like, no. And then it's like, it sends you on this like loop of trying to like categorize like every relationship you've ever been in, where it's like, oh my God, you've just given like your ego one more word to try to use as like a way to not have to take accountability for your own, for the way that you've also behaved in relationships, even if you haven't necessarily behaved poorly. But it's just you allowing certain behaviors continuously. Which if you're like a martyr like me, that's kind of where we end up kind of going, where we just find excuses for this behavior that we have seen before. And it is hard. It is hard. So, you know, while I definitely believe in the idea of the soulmates, in the sense that like I understand now that this is an idea that has been created and accepted by a percentage of people, like these are words now and terms that at this point, like you can just freely say, and everyone has at least heard of a soulmate. Absolutely.
Right.
So in that sense, I'm like, yes, I believe in this idea, and I believe that the people believe in this idea. However, despite what you want to call it or what you want to call the connection, absolutely any type of healthy relationship is going to require continuous conscious effort. And part of why so many relationships now, no matter the spectrum of relationships, are failing is because neither party or one party or the other is not conscious. They are still walking around very closed to what they do and how they behave and how they act in the world. So it just goes right back to what we were talking about earlier, of just how important it is for each individual to at least be on the same path of like growth, of like self-growth. At least for us. Like obviously it's and I think self-growth also looks differently to other people, so that's fine.
Yeah.
For us, it is this way that we have described. But yeah, it's absolutely imperative. It's imperative. It's like I just don't know how we would stand each other at this point, especially now. Like the vibration is just keeps changing and changing on Earth. Okay, like we just have less patience as a whole, and then on top of it, we are in our 30s. Like there is also that age range where we just like, you know, what I have patience for is just more defined by like not just my mind, but also like my physical body.
Yeah.
And so
and my
I have physical reactions. Yes, I have physical reactions to people that I like don't care to be around anymore. It's like how would we not just like annoy the crap out of each other?
Right. If we're not really conscious
and you know me,
present in the relationship.
I get annoyed real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. I'm like, no, this person hasn't even heard me at all.
Same.
At all. Haven't heard me at all. I have zero patience.
I agree.
Man.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, and it can be scary sometimes too, I think. Huh?
I said I have nothing to add to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna add that I think it can be scary sometimes too, like people that are, you know, because there are all different types of people, and part of self-analysis is also recognizing like how we react to people that we like, and especially how our hormonal reactions, like what are how our hormonal reactions affect our like brain processes.
Yes.
And through self-awareness, we can also understand like our obsessive patterns. And this is imperative, I think, when going out with people and interacting with people, because things can be, you know, some people can be pretty kind of scary. Like they're a little like they get a little obsessive, and they get obsessive in the same way that like I recognize that my brain can get obsessive, but we have different ways of processing. And some people we know things, guys. We have TV. Yeah. Some people. So be careful out there. And it is very important that, you know, if you are on the path of growth, that you find somebody that is also actively trying to grow and get to know themselves. Because if not, it's like, you know, they literally don't question anything that they say or the way that they behave towards you. They don't question it at all. And so who are they really regarding?
Right.
If they are not conscious of their own actions, who are they regarding? It's not you.
Yeah. You definitely can't ask them to try to like consider you if they already aren't doing.
Because according to them, they think they are.
Right, exactly.
You see? Because they're obsessed with you. So they're like, dude, my brain is only thinking about you. What do you mean? Everything I do is for you. At this point, you're like, ooh, I don't think you know.
I'm going to let you figure it out.
Go. Have a good day. Finger gunning away now. Like, man, it can be tough out there, you guys. So,
yes, please be
safe.
Get you some. Always tell your friends.
Get you a little routine. Yes. Yes. At least one of your close friends should have like your location when you go out. Just in case, even if you're like a super intuitive person and you're like, nope, the vibe is good. It's like, that's cool. Okay. Send it anyway.
Tell him anyway. Exactly.
Just send it anyway. Yeah, exactly. Send it anyway. In fact, if his vibe is so cool, then...
Oh, man. Well, I think next time we get to creepy dates or weird dates or fun dates, all the different dates Camilla's been on.
Yeah, let's keep all the different kind. Oh, God. I thought this was going to be like a share, but no, it's like dates I've been on. Like, oh, God.
Also some dates, too, but...
Man, I shall start making the list. Right. I'll make the list. Fun dates with Tyler.
Oh
Part 1.
man. Oh, this was a good talk tonight. Yeah.
This was fun. I always do this. Sorry, like, hey, stop.
That's how we greet the aliens too. We come in peace.
Beep. Boop. And we'll do this, like E.T., but instead of like this, we'll be like, boop.
E.T.
I can't wait. They're here, you guys, obviously.
All right.
The United States finally admitted.
Yeah, we love the aliens.
It's a different topic. You're right. Okay.
We'll talk about that on another episode.
Good night, guys.
Bye. Make sure you guys check the show notes for all the links. Camila's shirt link will be in there. Our Instagrams, obviously, make sure that you're following us to keep up with all the other stuff. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.